Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew DeSantis.
And I'm Kaylie Shapiro.
And welcome to the NYRA Bets Road to the Kentucky Derby
and the Kentucky Oaks.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Remsen and Demoiselle Stakes preview on the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. I'm your host, Matthew DeSantis, along with my co-host, Kaylie Shapiro. And I have to say, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. It is Kaylie's birthday today, the day we recorded. So happy birthday, and
thank you.
Pretty great way to spend your birthday talking about some fun races up here in New York.
Absolutely. The Remsen field is literally loaded. I cannot wait for that race on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, the Demoiselle is a good race too.
It is.
But boy, that Remsen field drew up big and strong. So really excited about it.
It did. And so welcome to this episode of the Road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. And listen, I'm not going to throw up my shoulder patting ourselves on the back, but we did a pretty damn good job last week handicapping those races down in Kentucky, because we both had Further Ado up top. He got the job done in the Kentucky Jockey Club. And then in the Goldenrod, I had Bella Ballerina. You had Atropa. And what did they do?
They ran one too.
They ran one too and paid $29 on a $1 exacta. So listen, we hope you cashed if you were listening. But this week, a new set of races, and we have a few up here in New York. And the Remsen's a really interesting race because a couple of years ago, of course, we remember Sierra Leone and Dornoch, that very thrilling stretch one where Sierra Leone got past him, and then Dornoch did what Dornoch continued to do in his career, which go, you're not getting past me.
Such a cool
horse. And just, nope, I'm pissed off and I'm getting past you. And Dornoch won. They both ended up in the Derby starting gate. Historically, it's not been necessarily the strongest prep. We have seen recent runners like Zandon and Sierra Leone go on to do very well. Obviously, Dornoch goes on to be a multiple Grade 1 winner as well coming out of this race. But the interesting part is it has produced multiple Kentucky Derby starters 6 times over the last about 12 years.
And that's probably due to the fact that if you're going to get a mile and an eighth,
yes,
as a 2-year-old at this time of the year, you probably have a really good shot at making the Kentucky Derby starting gate, just because this is a big test for these 2-year-olds. And that definitely speaks to the success of the race. It's the first mile and an eighth prep race for these horses going to the Derby. It's a huge test. And, you know, we'll find out a lot about these runners come Saturday.
We absolutely will. And listen, this is a field where the price tags alone are eye-popping. When you take a look and you go down this field, you talked to the Hall of Famer Nick Zito. I'm sure he was jealous of some of that.
Nick Zito said that you could send a family of children to school with all the price tags in this race, which is probably really true.
It is, because
maybe
you got
a colony.
Yeah, you got Paladin, who was $1.9 million at sale. You had a horse like Grittiness, who was $575,000. But then you have Courting, who's the full sibling to Clairiere, who was $5 million at sale. You have a horse like Renegade, who was nearly $1 million, $975,000. You have Balboa, who was $875,000. Talkin was $600,000. I mean, this is an expensive field of runners. But let's start by just saying, listen, the winner of this is going to get 10 points towards the road to the Kentucky Derby, which doesn't guarantee much of anything. But you mentioned the distance being such a big thing. Getting a mile and an eighth, you're right. If you can get that as a 2-year-old, probably speaks well to your ability to get a little bit longer as you mature and fill out as a 3-year-old.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, a couple of these horses you'd imagine are going to be able to handle the mile and an eighth. And of course, that doesn't mean that they'll all automatically handle a mile and a quarter. It's a big step up to that classic distance, but it definitely is going to help us weed out, you know, who in here can't even get a mile and an eighth.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have no shot.
It's absolutely true. And this is an interesting field because you and I, when we did our initial Kentucky Derby rankings, we both had Paladin as our number 1 contender. And yet Paladin is neither of our top picks in this field. And yet I don't think necessarily our opinion of Paladin has changed as much as long-term we like him a lot. But this spot is a tough race. And we think maybe there's some other horses that might just be either more developed right now or just a little bit more ready to win.
Yeah, and I definitely landed on my top pick just based on his running style and the fact that I think that's going to bode really well here. That's Renegade, and also the price. I mean, I would so prefer what's Paladin
3-1,
3-1, and Renegade is 5-1.
Yeah,
Renegade beat Paladin.
Yes,
I mean, I know that he got DQ'd and Paladin got put up that day, and they both ran a really good race. But I love the way that Renegade finished up that race. He came from off the pace, and I thought that was really professional and a big step up that this horse took, stretching out to a mile. Obviously, you can kind of draw a line through the debut in Saratoga, but just seeing, this horse put the pieces together and break his maiden off that long of a layoff, and how he did it really bodes well. I was excited to take 5-1 on this horse, and IRAD's coming in to ride this horse as well. So I'd say he's pretty live, and he's sire by Into Mischief, and he's out of a curling mare. I have absolutely no doubt that this horse can get a mile and an eighth, and I know that that's going to be some of the comments here. It's an Into Mischief, this and that. I mean, I don't know what that conversation is, because we just saw Sovereignty win the Derby last year, and Into Mischiefs get distance all the time, and this one comes from a really big female family, and clearly is pretty precocious. So I think we'll be able to handle it, and finished up like he should be able to handle it as well.
Yeah, certainly did finish up that way, despite a little bit of bumping in the stretch, which led to the disqualification. But listen, you can draw a line through that debut race for a lot of reasons. That was the It's Our Time race, and that horse has kind of regressed from that effort. But what I like about Todd is he took his time with this one and said, okay, we debuted at Saratoga, but now we're going to give it about 2 months, come back. We're going to stretch out to a mile. Horse ran real well that day, made a move, and really showed the ability to pass a lot of horses. There, you kind of alluded to it. There's a lot of pace in this race. He should be able to come from off of it. Listen, I like Renegade a lot. He's going to be on my late pick 5 ticket for sure, not excluding this horse at all. You mentioned IRAD's in town. It's no longer the Flavian Pratt show. We got Johnny Velasquez in town. We got Joel Rosario in town. We got Irad in town. Everybody's in town again. So
and it's interesting. They all show up here because I literally think that this field is going to result in at least 2 horses out of here should make the starting gate. That's my prediction. So it makes sense that the riders are coming to get their Derby mounts here.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it's more, because I think what's interesting about this is I think a couple of these horses who are in this race, Talkin maybe for Danny, maybe a couple of others who we'll touch on, might stay up here in New York and prep in the New York circuit. And that means they're just racking up points. Because if they're running against, and no disrespect, but if they're running against,
he'll go to Florida.
You think, okay, but there's some others who might stay up here.
Yeah, Talkin's
because then other ones are going to go to Gulfstream. Others are going to go to Tampa. Others are going to stay up here. So I think it's just you're going to see a splintering of this field into a few different circuits. And what that means is everybody's got a chance to get more points without scavenging them from each other. So I think maybe as many as 3 might make the starting gate from this field. I like this field a lot. But Renegade, very nice horse. Well, comes from off the pace. I was a little surprised David made him 5-1, although I certainly understand the logic, because he and Paladin, though, were right head and head, and Paladin's your favorite at 3-1. I ultimately went to Danny Gargan's horse Talkin as my top selection for a lot of the same reasons you did. This horse that can come from off the pace, has shown fantastic maturity and progression, and was chasing lone speed in that Champagne with Napoleon Solo, and really the only horse making up ground and passing others throughout most of that race. And I don't take anything away from him. Kendrick stays aboard. I like that Danny's staying loyal to him. And here's the thing. A couple years ago, Danny Gargan had a good magic horse that beat a really expensive gun runner that Chad Brown had in this race. Well, what do we have again? We got Danny with a good magic horse, and we got Chad with a really expensive gun runner in this race. Hey, listen, I'm going to run it. As Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again. I'm going to run it back and go with Talkin this time over Paladin.
And this horse is absolutely going on all of my tickets. I think I have him 3rd or 4th here, but I really like this horse, and I know Danny absolutely loves this horse. He's high on him. The horse is training lights out. I thought that he ran really well in the Champagne, and look who this horse has been running up against. I mean, on debut, he beat Further Ado. Okay, and then let's go to the Champagne. This horse beat Universe, who just came back to run a really, really good second?
Two Further Ado.
Yes, 2 Further Ado. So, I mean, this horse seems pretty live, and I think Kendrick suits this horse and fits this horse like a glove, and I think that he's going to have pace to run into as well, and he's definitely going on my tickets.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And listen, let's talk about the horse that we both alluded to plenty, which is Paladin. $1.9 million son of gun runner for Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt aboard, and the exact same ownership group that had Sierra Leone. This does feel like Sierra Leone 2.0. Whether he's better or not, that's going to be a tall task to figure out. But the bottom line is he fits the profile of Sierra Leone to a T in terms of even when Chad debuted him, the length he debuted him at, the track he debuted him at, and the progression to the Remsen as the second start. So they are following the Sierra Leone playbook with Paladin. I would have liked to see him fight back a little bit more in that debut, but listen, it was his debut, maybe a little green. And this is a horse that should appreciate all the distance. Gun runner out of a Tapit mare.
He's just going to continue to improve, just like Sierra Leone did. And I mean, what a job Chad Brown did with Sierra Leone and managing Sierra Leone from the time that he debuted up until his last start. That horse never finished off the board. He did a phenomenal job with that horse. And I'd imagine that he will with this Paladin as well. And he's shown every bit of talent, that Sierra Leone did at this point. He's only run once, and I think he has all the potential in the world. And I have him second here. I think he's a main player. I literally think Paladin and Renegade are I think they're going to run 1-2, and I think Talkin is going to have something to say as well. But I really like Paladin, and I didn't put him on top. Just he could be more slowly progressing than Renegade will be, just based on the pedigree. And also just what we got shown on debut. I liked how Renegade kind of just never gave up and kept fighting. Although he got put down, I thought he showed a lot of maturity there on debut. So excited to see what we see from Paladin.
I am too. Very excited to see him. He's a horse with loads of potential, connections that you can absolutely trust in this spot. So I think this horse has every opportunity to really be special moving forward. And Chad's going to move this one presumably down to Gulfstream, Tampa, Bluegrass. I mean, that's ultimately kind of the route that Chad usually likes to take. Getting to the Derby is what he did with Zandon and others. So
I'd love to watch this horse run in the Bluegrass, like Sierra Leone.
But we should say he's different from Sierra Leone in that he's got much better early speed than Sierra Leone does. So he's a different type of horse, as much as he fits him, and which makes Chad's job a lot easier, because
completely agree.
Part of Chad's troubles that he had with him was getting the right bit, figuring out how to ride him. Sierra Leone always gave him himself a lot to do. Now he was an amazing horse, and he could overcome that sometimes. But the bottom line is this one should be able to put himself in a much more better position early on in the race.
I completely agree with that. I think this horse is, and I will say, just a physical picture. We both went and saw him in the paddock when he debuted that day. I'm excited to see how he looks now. I bet he probably, buffed up even a little bit since that debut. And he's a picture. I'm excited for that horse.
He is. I'm excited for him too. Now, a horse that has 5 million reasons to be excited is Courting. And this is the full sibling to one of our favorite horses in recent memory, which is Clairiere, who you talk about a late runner like Sierra Leone. Clairiere, I was biting my nails every time that she ran. She either almost got there or almost didn't get there. And cost me or made me a lot of money, depending on things. But she was great. And this is the full sibling, cost $5 million, curling out of a Bernardini mare, if you're not familiar with the pedigree. And in debut, didn't run bad, but, it was coming from off the pace, just like her sister. Just like his sister, I should say. Made up a little bit of ground. Johnny was able to control things second time out. A very short field, we should say. Only 4 horses that day. The speed figure wasn't overwhelming, but Johnny really nursed the fractions up front. And so it was never going to come back as a big number. But again, this is a horse that's bred for this race and many, many more future big-time races.
Exactly. And that's why this horse needs to you need to ignore the figures, honestly, on this horse, because this horse could blow them all out of the water, stretching out to a mile and an eighth. There's the possibility of that. This horse is going on all of my tickets, that's for sure. And I think it's pretty good value, right? 9-2. So pretty good value on this one. Like we said, full sibling to Clairiere, and Clairiere kind of started off on a similar foot, was running similar buyers in her debut and even her second start. And she really improved when she continued to stretch out. So I'd imagine you're going to see the same thing with her full brother.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And, listen, Courting, very impressive horse. And you said it could continue to get better. I remember one of the things was pulling away in that last November 9th race. More importantly, Johnny really rode him. I'm going to say her all the time because of Clairiere, but rode him well out past the wire. And that's something Todd does with a lot of his horses, where when Todd is getting a horse to try to get more distance, you will see him give the jockey instructions many times of, hey, run this one past the wire, an extra furlong, really kind of get this horse, just get that conditioning. You even see that with the morning workouts with Todd's. It might be a 4 furlong workout, but when you see it actually go out, that next furlong and that really to the 6th furlong point, they're still riding them usually pretty strong. Todd's as good as there is at getting these horses to get more distance, and this one's bred for it. So yeah, like you, on my ticket, I'm going 4 deep in this with my top 4. I can't.
You almost have to.
Yeah, I almost can't differentiate. There's going to be other races where I'm going to go skinny, but this one's where I'm going to be spreading because it's just such a competitive field. Now, a horse that beat Courting is Igniter, right next door for Rick Dutrow Jr., Manny Franco up. Listen, you did a little bit of a deep dive on the pedigree with this one. Sired by Volatile out of the Malibu Moon Mare. I don't know. This one it doesn't strike me as one that's going to necessarily like the 1 1/8.
I mean, I saw Volatile, and immediately you think sprinting pedigree. I mean, Volatile, he was a sprinter. He throws sprinters, so that's a sprinter pedigree. And then you look at the Malibu Moon Mare, and I was like, okay, maybe here, let's take a look at the siblings, but they've all tapped out at a mile. I mean, some of these siblings couldn't even get a 1 1/16.
Yeah.
There's a full sibling to Igniter named Mick Swagger, and this horse ran a mile, kind of tapped out there. They tried stretching the horse out to a 1 1/16. He lost by 18 lengths. Then they went back to 6 furlongs. Then the horse won. Then they stretched the horse back out to a 1 1/16 again. The horse lost by over 30 lengths. So I just have a little bit of concern about this horse getting a 1 1/8. I think that's a really tall task, and we'll see. Maybe he proves me wrong, but just based on the pedigree, I think a 1 1/16 is the max for this horse.
Yeah, and listen, he's a horse. He can come from a little off the pace. He can track. Manny might be able to get him the right sort of trip. Babe Dutrow, you never know, but I don't know. I think Magnitude has a better chance.
If he works out a trip.
Yeah, if he works out a trip, maybe. We'll see.
I just thought that there was a lot of speed in here too. And, I don't know the trip that he's going to work out.
Yeah, and I think when you look at pedigree, there's other horses that are much more bred for this distance that make a lot more sense. And the other thing is, if Igniter was 12 to 1, I'd go, oh, that's interesting. Okay.
What's the price on it?
6 to 1. So he's basically the same price as Renegade and Talkin. And I don't see how you can look at this horse and Talkin and go, oh, no, I like that horse more. Like, that doesn't make sense to me when you look at how these horses have run, who they have run against, their relative pedigrees, and the trips that they're going to get based upon the track conditions and based upon the pace presence in this race. So I just don't get it.
I was really excited, by Renegade at 5.
Yeah, no, Renegade at 5 to 1 is a great price.
Yeah. The connections and everything, and just thinking Derby that way, and the 1 1/8.
I think so too. So listen, even though Kaylie and I are going in different directions, we both kind of like the same 4 horses, just a slightly different order.
Which is interesting because, Nick and I talked about this race and we had the same 4 in different orders.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's 4 really big players here. I'd recommend putting all 4 of those on your tickets, and I think you'd be pretty safe playing it that way. But I do think the number 1 is a little bit interesting. I will say I'll probably throw that horse in a few supers. Day 1 starter. This horse is an upstart out of a Distorted Humor mare. So, should be able to handle the distance. I know the horse regressed stretching out to a mile in the Nashua, but that was the first time going a mile. And Shug takes his time with these horses. And it seems like, the Nashua was on November 1st.
Yeah.
On November 21st, Shug worked this horse 47-1. A bullet work, I'm pretty sure, in company with the horse he has running in the Cigar Mile. That to me signals that a light went off in this horse's head, maybe in that work. And I think if Shug has this horse going in a 1 1/8 race, that he believes he can get the distance. And I also think drawing the 1 hole, the horse clearly has good speed. Drawing the 1 hole, I think we'll be able to save a decent amount of ground and sit a pretty nice trip, and is 15 to 1. So I just thought this one was a little interesting, and Junior also takes the ride too.
Junior does take the ride as well. I like this horse as well. Shug is as good at getting distance out of horses. And listen, if Shug didn't think this horse could get the distance, he wouldn't enter him in the race. It's a 12-horse field. It's not like the racing office was needing to, get entries for this particular race. That wasn't an issue. So, going to be interesting. Always love Shug in these sorts of spots. But listen, let's shift to the ladies. And let's talk about the Demoiselle. Now, you talk about a race that is important. The Demoiselle, much like the Goldenrod last week, we talked about it. 19% of Demoiselle starters since 2013 have made the Kentucky Oaks starting gate. That's an incredibly high percentage of Demoiselle starters. Now, only has produced one winner, and that was Malathat back in 2021. But 7 Demoiselle runners finished in the top 3 of the Kentucky Oaks since 2013. And this is a race that has produced multiple Oaks runners 7 times. So, again, you go back to that mile and an eighth. That's even more true with the Kentucky Oaks because the Kentucky Oaks is a mile and an eighth.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why this race on the girls' side is so important. We're going to learn a lot about these fillies, and it's pretty early. This is a big question with a lot of these, and it is a field of 6 that we have, but I do think that there are a couple in here, that will make some noise on the Oaks Trail and are pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
Rapoli has 2 in here that are
Rapoli has 2 in here. Chad has got 1 in here. But listen, 2 of the horses are sired by American Pharaoh. Where's he at now?
Japan.
He's in Japan. We love Pharaoh.
He looks really happy.
He does. I can't wait.
I love all the content.
I'm going to get the American Pharaoh plushie because they're going to make an American Pharaoh plushie.
I'll be on the waiting list for that.
We might have to give some calls to people over in Japan to get those. But listen, this is a really nice race. You have the number 3 Zany, who is your top choice for Todd Pletcher, a Rapoli horse with Irad Ortiz Jr. up. This is a daughter of American Pharaoh. Your second choice is Concurrently, another daughter of American Pharaoh, this one for Chad Brown. Both of those horses coming off maiden-breaking victories. And then you have a horse like the number 6 Believable for trainer Todd Pletcher, Rapoli, Johnny Velasquez. This one's coming off a second-place effort in the Tempted Stakes, but you like this one quite a bit and is ultimately your top choice.
I do, and I really like the 5-1 price. I mean, you look at Zany 6-5, and that's where your eye automatically goes when you're looking at this race. Zany won her maiden in gate-to-wire fashion at Gulfstream Park, and, I was like, wow, 76, this horse seems pretty legit. But if you think about it, going gate to wire, and this was my first thought, going gate to wire at Gulfstream Park, it's going to be a little different. Coming to Aqueduct, the track is different. Just different dynamics. And I'm going to try to play against. I landed on the number 6, Believable. Really good price here. Curlin out of a tap at mare should absolutely love the distance and should really improve. So where the figures are pretty light, 67 on debut, 59 in the listed stakes facing winners for the first time. Blinkers on, stretching out to a mile and an eighth. Johnny V now taking over. I'd imagine we're going to see some improvement from this one, and I love the price.
I love the price, too. I think this horse should absolutely relish additional distance. I think the 6 makes a lot of sense in this spot. I like this horse quite a bit. The fact this one has run against winners already makes this one much more formidable. The blinkers on. That's not always a great move with Todd, but it's not always a negative move either. It can go both ways. He's had some success with it. That was a bigger deal a few years ago when he did it with Forte. And then I remember a few years ago, stats were like 1 for 39 in those spots. But then he had a couple winners to do that since. And so, listen, some of it just depended on the horse. I will say when we talk about Zany, that's a horse that beat a 5-horse field at Gulfstream Park going gate to wire. Now, this is only a 6-horse field, but we're going from 6.5 furlongs to 9 furlongs. And American Pharaoh out of an Uncle Mo mare that should not have an issue with distance. But still, there's other horses that have decent speed in this race. Whether Zany can just get out up front and have things her own way and control the pace, I'm a little skeptical of. And that's why I landed on the second choice Concurrently for Chad Brown. This is a horse that can come from a little off the pace, but also has shown the ability to get up front to going a mile. Another American Pharaoh out of a Midnight Loot mare. And Chad even admitted he kind of made a mistake putting this one on turf for the first time. And once this horse went onto the dirt, lost to Believable in that maiden-breaking, in her maiden-breaking victory, but nearly got the job done and just kind of got nailed at the end, dueled with Believable, and then stepped up and won nicely next time out going a mile. I think this one should like stretching out a little bit more. So listen, 3-1 is still a relatively short price. This is another field where I'm not thrilled about necessarily singling or going too skinny in this particular race, but Concurrently will be my top choice, much like you, just trying to get around the favorite in this particular spot.
Yeah, you could honestly probably play on if you don't like Zany here, you could use Concurrently and Believable.
I think so. Ticket. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a good move, honestly. I think both of these fillies have a really good shot. I like Chad Brown's horse here. Those are probably your main 3 players. I just went with the best value, I thought. And also, if we look at Believable's pedigree, I forgot to call out, has a major sibling here, Tenfold, who really relished distance
Yes,
clearly,
yes.
and also was able to get distance pretty early on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes, so that is a really positive sign.
Yeah, no, he was a Jim Dandy winner and really became a really good stayer later in his career. Won the Pimlico Special going a mile and 3/16 or a mile and a quarter. This was a very nice horse, Tenfold. So absolutely should get the distance. A horse that I threw in underneath, I thought was going to be maybe more of a price, is actually a shorter price than Believable, and I might actually kind of change the way I bet based upon that, is Shilling, Kenny McPeek's horse, who won the Tempted, but did so in gate to wire fashion. And I think Shilling is the horse that's going to screw things up for Zany, I think.
Yeah, I think you're 100%
that
right.
Shilling's going to kind of press the issue maybe a little bit more and maybe not give Zany that ability to cross, or even if she does get over, it's going to be kind of right on her. And I don't love Irad up on the lead, and that's a whole other discussion we can have. But I thought Shilling with Chris Elliott aboard. Listen, Chris is a nice jockey, and he's a young guy, but he's making a name for himself riding some of Kenny's horses in these spots. And she's done it 2 times in a row, and she was able to get a mile. And it's a global campaign, which that strikes the same pedigree as Universe, who's Kenny's Derby horse that he's got as a global campaign. So he clearly sees something there. And listen, it's the Curlin pedigree, so it makes sense.
It makes all the sense in the world. Wow, that's interesting that what you just said about the global campaigns. He has 2 of them.
Yeah,
Kenny
knows how to spot a price.
This is pretty interesting.
Deal. Yeah.
But like what you were saying about Chris Elliott, I mean, he does a really good job riding all of Kenny's horses, but particularly he's really good on these young horses. These 2-year-olds. So I really like this horse. What's the price?
4-1. So that's that's the issue, is when I saw David made it 4-1, I thought, geez, Believable is better value at 5-1. I agree with you on that. And then our friend Nick Zito, he likes the number 1 jumping the gun a little bit in this race coming out of Delaware Park. And I get, the horse has won a couple of stakes races already, finished second last time out, going a mile, feels, as a gun runner out of a quality road mare, so should be able to get distance. But it's going to be a big class test, obviously, coming up here in New York from Delaware Park.
Big class test. I think he really liked just how consistent the horse is, and the pedigree, should improve stretching out. But I'm really excited to place a win bet on Believable here.
I would be too if I were you. I will say, I'll tell you 2 horses that we both liked, who I remember ran their previous races at Delaware Park before they really ran a breakout race in New York. Idiomatic and Alva Star. Both of them ran at Delaware Park, and they came up to Saratoga in their next starts, and were both kind of not under the radar, but not top choices. Wow. And they both had their kind of breakout performances in Saratoga and big graded stakes races. So that Delaware Park connection can work sometimes. Idiomatic and Alva Star jumping the gun is not, at least not yet. So we'll see. But listen, it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. And then we got the Cigar Mile too. Let's not forget about that. But it's going to be a fun weekend up here in New York. Kaylie, it's your birthday. I think we should let you get back to firing off some win bets, maybe at Gulfstream Park, at Aqueduct, at Fairgrounds, maybe Turfway Park tonight.
For sure. I was, watching Turfway Park. It's so nice. You could just watch it in bed. Like when they start racing at night, it's awesome. So.
She turns 25, and next thing you know, she's just in bed watching Turfway Park. It's a wild and crazy life. Listen, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. Make sure to press that like and subscribe button here on NYRA Bets YouTube. For the birthday girl, Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races. And reminding you, friends, it's now post time.